Hey everyone, welcome to a very different version of us going live. First, you'll see that it's me and Kelly are the only ones here from the Stew crew. We didn't even bother inviting them.
Not that we don't
Sorry. So, as much as this is like under the vegan stew, it's really me and Kelly. And I had the idea of going live and talking about what's going on in the United States and what's going on in Canada, since Kelly's in Canada and in Toronto, and which I just read is supposed to be the piece that they're going to pull in and make our 51st state. But so we'll get into that. And I'm in the States and in the South, which makes for a different place to live as opposed to living where I have in California and New York. So we wanted to get together and talk about what we actually see as opposed to what the media is actually saying. And I've got questions for Kelly from what I've read, and I just want to hear what is reality. And of course, Kelly can ask me what our reality is, but pretty much everything that she's hearing and seeing is. So, well, maybe not. I get to hear what you have to say. So, if you have any questions or comments, always put it in the little notes in the comment box, and we'll address that. We just ask that, don't be a dick because we're just going to have a conversation. And if you choose to be, we may respond to you, we may not. We'll see. Maybe we'll yell. Maybe we won't yell. We'll see what happens. And also we are live on Instagram as well. So if you're over there, I have to keep going back and forth to see any questions or comments. So if there's a little bit of a delay, you'll know that's why I'm over there right now. But let's get started. So first, I'm Helene, and I'm the executive director of VegFest Expos, and I am liberal, and that's no surprise to pretty much anybody. I'm an ethical vegan who produces vegan events in the southeast of the United States, and that's super important to me. This is my morals, my values, my ethics. And I was never political because I grew up in New York and I lived in Northern California, and my vote was never it counts, but it never really counted because the elections always went the way I wanted them to until I moved to the South. And now living in North Carolina, my vote really, really matters. And it's a purple state that leans in different directions. So Kelly, tell us about you.
Thanks, Lane. So I'm Kelly, and I am a Director of Operations Partnerships for a nonprofit, and I also run the Veganabler, which is my personal catering company. I grew up in Canada. I grew up in Toronto. I lived in one other province very briefly, but the vast majority, 99.9% of my life has been in Toronto, and I grew up in a conservative home. I never really voted, was not political until probably a few decades ago. And it's sort of the obligatory, vote. And I have voted for every single political party. But I've gotten progressively liberal. But our liberal is, we actually have a liberal party. We have 3 parties. We have 4 parties in Canada, but 2 major ones. The third one is so-so. And I actually have, voted more recently for the NDP party, which is a New Democrat party. And yeah, it's that's why I'm so excited to talk about this, because I do my duty as a citizen to vote and do all that. But it wasn't until all this happened that the patriotic part of me is come out. I've always, like, anywhere I go, people are like, oh, you're Canada. Oh, people are like, and they'll tell me like their experiences about Canada, which I love that we're going to talk about, because anytime people tell me about things, I'm like, oh, that's not my experience being a Canadian, right? So it's gonna be really fun. But yeah, this has really brought out the nationalistic part of me, as I'm wearing my LGBTQ and Canadian flag sweater. I got my flag behind me. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about this.
Can you send me one of those sweaters?
Yeah.
I would love one of those sweaters. I would wear that. I would wear that proudly. It's pretty awesome. I I voted. I learned to vote. And they might have spoken about this on the stew previously, but I learned to vote for my dad, and my dad was a Republican. And when I was a little girl in New York, they had the machines where you did the clicking, which is like super cool. Now you fill in bubbles, but we had this like cool clicking machine. So when you close the thing and the curtain closed, it like reset. So then you have to go back and do these clicks. And my dad went into the voting booth, and I was there. I was like probably 8. I don't know. I looked up, and he was like, Republican, click, 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 click. And then he opened the curtain and get out. So when I first voted, I went into the machine, closed it, and I went to Democrat. Click, 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 click. And then I opened the curtain because that's how I learned how to vote. The opposite of, and I don't even know how I even got there to be the opposite. My mom was not Republican, which led to, a divided household in multitudes of ways. My siblings and I are divided in ways. So, but we seem to in our adulthood be getting along, and I think that's a good thing. But it's, gosh, we have such. So let's go backwards. Let's go back to Trump's original 4 years, which we were all super afraid about. Like, right? Super afraid about it. He did some weird shit, but we got through it because they were sane people, like, that made sure that things didn't happen. And then they spent the last 8 to 10 years being smarter than I think anyone gave them credit for, developing a plan and putting things in motion that if you paid attention, you saw were happening. But then you come to this election, you think, there's no way we would do this again. Like, there's just no way we like, I had faith in our public. I had faith in the people that live here, that they'd be smarter than what actually happened. And that's not to say, and I'll be conspiracy theorist, it's not to say, because everything that Trump says is kind of like the truth. If he said the other day, from what I read, that he was caught on mic to talk about how he and Musk won because it was rigged. Like, he said this in the Oval Office. So it's quite possible that that's what happened, and that's how he won, by how he won. There's no way to know that because Democrats don't fight. That's a problem. So, here we are in a much scarier time. A way, way scarier time. When we're talking to Canada and Mexico and picking fights with our 2 closest allies. But people here are like, hey, that's okay. And then, we're just picking people up and deporting them. Humans, not illegals, humans are being deported who haven't done anything wrong. If you commit a crime, I'm okay with you being deported because you committed a crime in our country. But to them, the crime is actually being here. Yet so many of these people, these humans, are working jobs and contributing to society and paying taxes, because you can't buy anything here without paying taxes on it. And they're doing jobs that Americans don't want to do. And they're not being paid very well. I mean, to go into the vegan piece, who do you think is working in food production and in the animal slaughter?
Yep.
Who do you think that is? It's immigrants dealing with the PTSD of killing animals every day so you can have food on your plates.
Yeah. Same.
Yep. That's, I mean, we know what Americans don't want to do. Unless they're forced to, and there's no other job, and they're in the area where they live, and that's the only job they can get. What? No, it just, I don't know. So
it's for me, my worry about our government has started many years, like during Biden's administration, because we had the lockdown of our capital, and seeing how many people supported that disruption, that illegal disruption, especially in the vegan community, is really what shook me awake and be like, I cannot take, voting for granted, like all of this, our country's heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah, you've been saying that for years. You said you've been concerned about this next election for Canada for like, I think 3 years now.
Hmm.
And you've said over and over that it's going to go the other direction because that's what happens in politics. There's too much of one thing and people just get sick of that and they vote the other thing in thinking
Yeah.
that other thing's going to be better, not realizing that cyclical, that economies and money and government goes up and down, and you go to extremes when you vote the different powers in. If you keep the same power in and just kind of like work within, you would have some moderation with smaller extremes. And, since you said that, I've been following along. And you were super concerned the last time I think we went live. It was was it pre-Trump? It was pre him being in office.
Yeah.
Because I don't even remember the last time we went live. And you were like, the conservative government, it's very Trump-like in Canada. They're going to get elected the next time we have an election. So I've been paying attention, and suddenly we have what your future might be. And the Canadians are like, hell no, that's not what we want. And your Democratic Liberal Party went from like a -% chance of being elected to like a 36% chance. That's like a 39% swing in your country because of Trump.
Yeah, they're now within 1 point of the Conservatives. So even if the Conservatives get in, it will be a minority government, which is the best that we can hope for if the Conservatives get in, because it doesn't allow them full power. But just seeing this this comeback is definitely encouraging, and I think like a lot of people, people were really frustrated with Trudeau. I don't really understand personally, yeah, he was in power a long time, but and he wasn't who I was voting for, when he got in. But it's, I think it's made a lot of people who went to other parties go, I'm going, like Green Party or NDP Party going, you'll want to abandon the party that but like we have to vote strategically this time, seeing what's happening in the US, right? And moving back to parties that they might have abandoned just to make sure that Polyev does not get in. And I think what else we have going for us, there's this video going around of Polyev, like basically like it's stealing Trump's playbook. Like it's Trump saying something and then him saying the exact same words, only just insert Canada instead of the US, right? And I think people like he has no platform, right? Like, okay, so Trudeau is out now, and and we have Carney in, right? And so I think there's maybe like a renewed hope that he would be firmer. I don't know. He's more centralist as well. People think that he's going to take, which is, I think, where Canada is sort of central left leaning. So I think people are maybe cautiously, optimistic. But, we can't take that for granted. And, I'm seeing on socials just, almost all of my friends just being like very, very political in hopes to sway people on their friends lists who are Canadians and who might be voting Conservative. And hopefully it's working.
So, question for you. We need to be educated on your political system.
Okay, sure.
Right? So I don't know a lot about it. I understand that it's more leaning more towards like what Great Britain has as opposed to what we have, is what it sounds like. And because we have a two-party system, we have two arguing parties, and one is in complete control at this moment in time. And it's never been this scary on this side. I like the idea that you can have. I mean, I guess we kind of have it, but we don't officially have it because within these parties, there's factions, and those factions become groups, and those groups kind of, kind of vote in together. But when it comes down to it, they all vote together for good or for worse. But you actually have different parties that get into power, and then the percentage of them that are in power end up deciding how things are going to go. Do I have that right?
Yeah, we are essentially like two parties in that it's very rare on a federal level. Like in the last, an NDP has never gotten in on a federal level. It always goes between conservative and liberal. On a provincial level, there are a lot of premiers who are NDP.
What is NDP?
New Democratic Party.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then obviously we have the Green Party, and they represent, probably like 3 to 5% of the votes, maybe a little higher depending on where. So and then obviously in Quebec they have the Bloc Québécois, which is they're the party that's known as like the separatist party. They're the ones that who do believe that Quebec should separate. Not yeah. That's I don't really know much about that, but apparently there's a movement in Alberta, which is obviously a conservative province, to have a party that is like the American party. Like basically, it's a separatist party for Alberta to separate and join the U.S. And never in my life would I don't know how long the Bloc Québécois has been around, like the separatist party. It's just like I've always known it to be. So it's but to see this happen, and then to see the support too for it is, I don't know how serious to take it.
It's pretty freaking scary considering like where you live is the piece that they want to like absorb into the United States. I just read that today that it's Toronto. That area that
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because our mayor is apolitical. I mean, obviously our mayors do come from political parties, but they don't campaign under any political affiliation. The mayor that we have now, she is the wife of the late Jack Layton, who was an NDP. She unfortunately is not well liked. But then we have Doug Ford, who is our premier, and he's a conservative. And up until recently, our mayor, before he stepped down because there was a scandal on him, he was a conservative as well, but he was not like a right, like very right. He was very center.
Your people stepped down.
He did for a scandal. Yeah.
Ours don't do that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you could think what you want. It was a sex scandal, an inappropriate relationship. I mean, I think the thing is like it's probably happening all the time. He's just got exposed. So he didn't step down. He wasn't doing his job properly, right? He was fine. So it's interesting. So Ford took advantage of what's going on in the U.S. to call for a snap election because his popularity was high, and he got in with like a majority. And it's kind of concerning to see some liberal areas flip to conservative. But I mean, Toronto is definitely still a liberal city, but Ontario, I don't know what part they want to start with in Canada, but if they're looking at just Toronto, then that would we're liberal. We wouldn't be voting for Trump. So
Right. That was something that was posted today, I think by Brian Tyler Cohen. I think he was just like, what benefit do you think these
yeah,
people will have for you? They wouldn't vote for you anyway. But
exactly.
what we'd be doing is take away your health care. Like, really? You want to come to our healthcare system? It sucks compared to yours. Yes, maybe you'll pay less taxes, but you'll have more worries.
Oh yeah.
Oh, way more worries on that. Oh no, no, no. No, 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 no. So you have a new prime minister. When does he start?
Um, I don't know. Like, I mean, I know he's doing the swearing in, he's getting briefed, and all that's happening. I don't know if there's an official like flip date. I just yeah.
Or there's like a couple of week transition period and then it's like him.
Yeah, like Trudeau has stopped representing Canada in our messaging, talking about the tariffs and everything. It's Carney now. So yeah, whether there's like something official that's going to happen, like we all just kind of he's it now, and it's really concerning as well of how many people don't understand like how that happened. Like the liberal parties and registered liberal voters voted him in, and the people in Canada who doesn't understand that thinks that like they were somehow shunned from voting for our new prime minister, right? So they're like making a big deal like I didn't vote for him. And it's like that's not what's going on. You weren't like we were excluded because you're not a registered liberal, right? So if you want to vote for him, you should vote liberal, because then you would have had you could have voted for who gets in, right? So
Did you vote in that case? Or
no,
did the government voted? Didn't it wasn't it the people in your government that voted the majority party voted for their new head until like you have official elections and then they have to re-vote for a new head?
it's who's registered as liberal. Yeah, I'm not too sure like who represents that.
It's not citizens though. It's the people who are already in the government, right?
Who are liberal. Yeah.
Right. So you're a liberal party because that's who. It's like Speaker of the House here.
Well, it's what kind of like what happened with uh uh oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name. Kamala.
Pelosi? No, who?
Kamala, right? Like,
Kamala. Okay.
it was like the party, um except like normally they would. It's in her case they didn't, right? Or they
Oh,
did, but it wasn't.
we had a very different. I think a better analogy would be like if the well it happened. The Speaker of the House was removed, and the Republican Party had to pick somebody to
Yeah.
replace, and that person ended up being Mike Johnson, but not after a significant amount of votes for a whole bunch of different people. So they could get enough to, make him Speaker of the House, who's third in command in our country. So if something happened to our president, vice president, Speaker of the House would take over, which is, scary. But, who knows? So I would think it'd be more like that on your end because it's a liberal prime minister. Everybody probably voted, but the majority is the majority. So they voted and they won. But I guess if everybody was conflicted for some reason, like if a couple of Republicans had just said, screw this, I don't want to deal with this, and jumped over to the Democrats, the Speaker of the House could have been a Democrat. It wouldn't happen because they wouldn't do that. They like their careers in power too much. So, but I kind of equate it to that. We just have a different, because we only have the two parties, even though there's the factions within them. You actually have a whole bunch of different parties.
The liberals voted, like Trudeau stepped down, and then it's the Liberal Party that voted to replace him, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And then what's likely going to happen, unless because right now the NDP, which is Jagmeet Singh, he's the leader of the NDP party, has vowed to, as soon as they get back into parliament, because they're currently on, I think it's called pro pro prologue or something. No,
Okay.
I don't think that's the right
We'll
word.
just call it vacation.
Basically, right? As soon as they get they start up again to call an election. And so a lot of people are, and he's sort of backpedaled on that messaging, which I'm kind of glad. I know that the conservatives want that, like they were excited that he was going to do that, because they did that, basically to try to get to push Trudeau out. And it worked. He did, eventually step down, but so now, he's kind of saying, like, we're in uncertain times. I don't know if we should be focusing on a country election. Trudeau's time would have been up in October. We will have an election before October.
It amazes me that you could just call an election. That you can just be like, for the country, not for like, a province or like a little town, like a mayor or like replacing somebody. You're actually doing an election for the whole country, right?
It's a vote of no confidence, and it would have passed, and then an election's then called. Yeah. So he can still do that. And we can have an election like within weeks.
That's wild. And that's not just for prime minister, right? That's for all of them.
That will be for it's for our prime minister.
It's for your prime minister.
And that's what Poilievre has been trying to push. I mean, he was the one that's been the voice behind the vote of no confidence, and the NDP party has sided with the Liberals, obviously up until recently, and then pressured and broke, I guess late last year, and that's when Singh said that he would vote no confidence, because he was riding on that popularity, and he wanted to get the election happening as soon as possible because they knew that they would win. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out now that gap has significantly shifted. If he's going to try to take this time to, widen it, ramp up his, or if he's just going to, try his best and hope that they get in, and that the numbers are wrong, and, that they really do have the support that they need. So, so things are kind of not really sure what's going to be happening on that end. But, what we do know, and what's vastly different than 6 months ago, is the Conservatives will not have a majority government. They will have a minority if they do get in at all.
I mean, and that's pretty wild because, I truly believe that good comes from bad, right? I think we are going to have a lot of bad over here for a number of years, because I don't know how you reverse the damage that's being done and the crimes that are happening in front of our eyes, and the fact that there's still crimes from the previous time that he was president that kind of got swept under the rug because he became president again. And then when he's done being president, if he's done being president, because I do believe that there's going to be a push for no more elections in this country.
Mm-hmm.
That, I don't like, where do we go? Like what, right? So, and then we have this happening here, and Canadians are astute enough to go, no, we don't want that to happen to us. We don't want that. And you're doing everything in your power right now to prevent that from crossing your borders. And then we have like a nifty little tariff war that doesn't make any sense because it only harms everybody. Mm-hmm. And the fake stuff that's being posted, like somebody posted on my timeline today a meme that shows the 200 something percent on dairy, that Canada has on the US. And meanwhile, it doesn't even happen because we don't reach the threshold that is necessary to even implement the tariffs. And people are just too dumb to just do a quick Google search. It's really not that hard. And two, our president is lying and saying that you're charging us 300% tariffs on milk that we don't even drink. So, but, and it's all in an agreement that he signed and approved of when he was last president, which is absolutely absurd. But none, facts don't matter.
Yeah.
Facts don't matter. They just don't. It's just out the window. And every single day is another day of an ignorant, dumb populace getting dumber and more controlled.
I saw. I was reading an article from the Walrus, and they summed it up really well. They said Trump is a mercantilist obsessed with the balance of trade. He sees commerce as a zero-sum game. In his view, if U.S. buys more from a country than it sells in return, it's getting ripped off. And so that's really how he sees it, right? That's why he's just like rip off. Canada rips us off. Europe rips us off, and he really doesn't understand what's going on. But I think Trudeau, in one of his last speeches that he said, said it very clearly, that we absolutely should be taking what Trump says about, us joining the US very serious. And I don't think that, he would say that for fear mongering or anything, because we are seeing what Trump says he does, no matter how insane it is, and we know, he wants dominance. He wants this hemispheric dominance, which is why he's going after Panama and why he's going after Greenland. Right?
Yeah. I
mean,
it just doesn't make any sense.
And the numbers from America, of Canadians, let me just go. I've got them up. Of who actually don't take this seriously is actually kind of concerning. There's a poll.
How could you? I wouldn't take it seriously that we could absorb a percentage of your country into the United States just because. I mean, isn't that called war? Do we have to forcibly take it? And we're going to forcibly take a piece of Canada? That's what it's come to. Well, and you're all going to be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, that post that you did it on your Facebook page, I think it was yesterday, or maybe it was today even. And it pointed out every date that he has said this.
Yep.
And he has said this will happen. This will happen. We will take Canada.
It wasn't even part of the equation. It wasn't even, he wasn't on the campaign trail saying, we're going to take Canada. I don't even know if that would have helped or hurt him. And that's what's really scary is I don't know if that would have helped or hurt him. If more people would have voted for him thinking, I would think more people would have been like, can we become Canada? As opposed to the opposite.
Well, I'm curious, Helene, what do people in America think if you at the thought of going to war with Canada?
It's if I said that to someone, they would think I'm out of my mind. Right? However, I'll read the timeline because I have it up.
Right.
How people are so enamored by the bullish ways. I guess because, humans like power, and humans really like to emulate or look up to power. And he's got that for him. He comes off as powerful. So I believe that people maybe were sane at some point, but have drank so much Kool-Aid at this point that they're insane. Like, there's someone on my timeline almost every day who I think is insane, is a cult, has drank the Kool-Aid. But the thing is, they think it's me. He thinks it's me that has the Kool-Aid. He thinks it's me that's like, has the wool over my eyes. It thinks that I'm the one that is being foolish and mean, because I was called nasty today. So, and I'm like, well, one, I don't like to be manipulated, and two, I'm pretty aware of what's going on. And if I'm wrong, then wow. So I have to say, like, wow, I've really paid attention to all of this, and I've kind of like watched the chess game play out, and I'm watching it play out, and I'm really at the point where I refuse to live in a society that's like Nazi Germany. I will not let that happen where I live. I will not. I will not. I just won't. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I won't let that happen, because my ancestors died in Poland. And I'm not going to say all Germans are bad, because not all Americans are bad, not all Canadians are bad, but enough of them didn't do enough to prevent it from happening in the first place. And that's the precipice. That's where we are now. Like, we've already done the dirty deed of putting the person in charge, or the people in charge, who can make this stuff happen. And that graduate student, well, he graduated from Columbia, who is a green card holder.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize a green card holder, I looked it up the other night, pretty much has every alienable right that I have, except they can't work in a security type position. And if they commit a crime against the government, or like, terrorists, they can lose their green card. I'm pretty sure that if I sided with terrorists, that I would be imprisoned. So it's not really too different. He goes home, I go to prison. He's got the better deal, depending on where home is. So, and I can work a security job. And that's pretty much the main differences. And the other thing that came up the other night was the word unequal. The word that person, the green card holder or the immigrant, are not equal to an American citizen. That's absolutely not true. They're a human being. They're a human being. And they are equal to sort of all the animals that inhabit this planet, are all equal. There is no difference. And that like pissed me off to no end, because just because I have rights, those rights should be for everybody. Those rights shouldn't just be for an American citizen or Canadian citizen. Those rights should go to all humans. If you commit an egregious crime, then yes, you should be removed. But coming here to save your life and the life of your family is not an egregious crime. And because we have a messed up system to allow people in, doesn't mean that they're wrong. It means we need to do better.
Yeah.
And there's a refusal to do that on our end. And this is like a long tangent of a whole bunch of stuff, but it just pisses me the fuck off, because I get totally riled up when you attack humans, injustice, animals, ethics, morals. I get super riled up. Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ, trans folks. Yeah. I get super, and I can't control it. I just get super duper riled up. because I just don't understand how you can see anybody that I've just named as any different than you and me sitting here.
Yep.
Especially coming from, a woman in a country that wants to take away women's rights. I can't have a child anymore. So in a Gilead, I don't know where I would be.
Yeah.
Probably in the mines.
Yeah, we were talking about that, right? I'm in the
Yep.
same situation, but I have a 30-year-old daughter. So I'm terrified, and
Yep.
and I'm not saying like, yeah, I think we're like just around the corner from that. I mean, in Canada, I'm not, but it's just everything that's going on has just made me realize we can't take any of this for granted. That's something that Trudeau said in his last speech, right? Like democracy and freedom is, don't take it for granted. Like you have to continue to fight for it, and you know, um, yeah. So
once you once
it's
you
coming
once
to
you
me,
once you
like,
fall back, once you relax.
yeah,
I mean, you should be able to relax in this world, but you still should be paying attention.
yeah,
And I feel like ignorance right now is a sin that is not justifiable. You need to educate yourself, and I don't mean from fucking YouTube and from rags that are clearly cited. You know, I listened to what MSNBC last week or this I don't even know earlier this week, and she actually said Gilead, that we're not Gilead yet. I think was what she said, and I just went, "Yo, what? You just said Gilead on the news publicly. I, that's wild. It's absolutely wild that it's even a reference, as it should be, because who it's it's
it's
too close for comfort.
I remember reading that book decades ago, and it was literally the scary. I mean, it was more scary than any horror book I have ever read. And when so just to yeah, just to the fact that we're even having a conversation that our countries could possibly even be there is just in this. I never thought I would ever have a conversation that would even, it was, yeah, it was just like, that's a night. Wow. That's scary. That's a nightmare. And now here we are talking about it. Like,
Like we need Canada to be sane. Like honestly, for me, I need your country to stay sane because I need a place to go.
I mean, yeah, well, one thing that's going on, and I'm sure you're seeing this. So we were talking about like, what are you seeing in the news that is happening and what isn't happening, um, and I am in my own bubble. I mean, I work from home, so I'm not, I don't go into office. My coworkers are all in India and London, so don't. I'm the lone person in North America, right? Uh, so, but I know I've been on social media more than I have probably in the last year and a half, and I'm seeing it on the news as well that Canadians are standing up, fighting back however we can. So, going back to like my sweater, for example, buying stuff that's just made in Canada. This sweater was made in Canada. I myself am only buying Canadian products. And that group that I am in, that I joined, and it had been it'd been around before this was even happening, but I've seen that group go from just like, you know, a couple 100,000 to like over 1 million, and to see people come together, and what's really nice that I see in the group now, there's some assholes in the group, but is there's a lot of vegans in these groups, and I'm not even talking about like my friends in my community, just around Canada, posting and saying like, where can I find a non-dairy cheese alternative or a plant-based meat? And like people all around, like making sure that, there, it's not like it's not about like, oh, you're a vegan. Like you get the odd jerk comment, right? But the vast majority of people are like Googling it and find these are not vegans, but they are supporting this person just to ensure that they find a Canadian alternative, right? So seeing this come together and in our grocery stores, like we're seeing Canadian like leaf on Canadian products. Like we're definitely seeing that emphasized. Doug Ford said that he would consider making that mandatory if the shops don't do it willingly. But we're definitely seeing that messaging. And so I know my family is doing it. I know a lot of people in my community is doing that. In terms of sort of pride, like we had a Flag Day on February 16th, and that's and so that's where I got my flag, which is a Canadian made flag. I made sure, and I was really proud. I got it. I put it outside, and where I am in my neighborhood, I'm not seeing it. That's not to say it's not happening, but I'm not seeing it. But people are showing pockets of areas in Toronto and other groups that I'm in where they have like neighborhoods that are just flags everywhere. So it's kind of hard to tell, what people are doing, but I do know like the number, like the Ipsos survey, 43% of people, of Canadians, don't think that it should be treated as serious. And that's actually a really concerning number. Yeah, I know like it's like 80% of Canadians don't want to become part of the US, but that almost half aren't even like really taking it serious is concerning.
I completely understand why they wouldn't take it seriously, because how do you take something like that seriously? I mean, you think calmer heads will prevail. You think, except that we we have a playbook going on here. That Project 2025 stuff, that was serious, and we didn't take that seriously. People did, probably the same amount that are not taking yours seriously, and some of the ones that do were kind of in the same boat. But it didn't ever come out that taking over Canada was part of the playbook. At least as far as I know. I didn't read it, but wouldn't that have been a highlight?
But is it, or is this just something Trump latched onto? Like someone was giving him financial advice, and we came up and like, I'm curious where this is coming from.
Well, let's go over the timeline, right? This is from Muggsy Margaret, and I think Muggsy is Canadian, and he posted a timeline of this whole Canada thing, and I'll briefly go through this. As I'll say it, I'll be a New Yorker, and I talk as quickly as I can, but I'll kind of paraphrase some of it. And we're going to go back to November 30th, 2018, as one of these. The U.S., Canada, and Mexico finalized a trade agreement. Trump personally negotiates the terms and signs the document, celebrating it as the greatest trade agreement in history, and that is important. So, November 29, 2024, in a face-to-face meeting, Trump threatens the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, that he will be imposing 25% tariffs, and that if Canada wants to avoid that, it should join the U.S. as a state. I hadn't heard that. So that was new to me, that happened in 2024. December 3rd, 2024, Trump remarks that he would split Canada into two states once annexed. Awesome. And then December 10th, 2024, Trump posts that the majority of Canadians support annexation, despite public polling that only 13% of Canadians would consider the idea. I'd really like to talk to that 13%.
I know.
I would like to know who they are and why they think that they would rather be here, and Yeah. So
They're in Alberta.
okay, so December 18, 20, because maybe you want better weather. So December 18, 2024, Trump again falsely states that the majority of Canadians support annexation and that one of his lapdogs, Wayne Gretzky, should have a leadership role in the new scenario. I didn't know Wayne Gretzky supported him. So January 7, 25, at a press conference, Trump says that he would use economic force to destroy the Canadian economy to annex it. January 15th, Trump again claims that that most Canadians want to be American, despite new polls showing only 10% of us are open to that idea. January 20th. During his inaugural address, Trump says that the U.S. will expand its territory during his second term. It's like so scary. January 23rd. At the World Economic Forum, Trump says that Canada can avoid tariffs and economic collapse if it joins the U.S. He says this in front of representatives from most countries in the world. January 24th. Trump states publicly that Canada will become a state. January 31st. Trump announces a 25% tariff on all Canadian imports to begin the next day. February 2nd. Trump refers to Canada as its cherished 51st state and that it should join the U.S. to avoid tariffs. February 3rd. A 1-month delay is agreed upon. Trump, in a conversation with Trudeau, states that he doesn't think existing border treaties with Canada are valid and need to be revised. February 7th. In a closed-door meeting with his cabinet, Prime Minister Trudeau is recorded, without his knowledge, telling everyone that he believes very strongly that Trump is serious and that he stated his reason for annexation as Canadian resources. February 9th. In a Super Bowl pregame interview, Trump says that he's serious about his threats, calling it a viable consideration for expanding U.S. territory. February 10th. Trump announces an additional 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from Canada to come into effect March 12th. February 24th. Trump publicly remarks that whoever signed the USMCA agreement is an idiot. He was the one that signed it. March 1st, just that alone should be enough reason for you all to just stop. So March 4th, 5th, and 6th. Tariffs come into effect. Canada retaliates with its own tariffs. Tariffs are again postponed until April 1st after a huge market backlash. March 4th. In an address to a joint session of Congress, Trump states the U.S. will own Greenland one way or the other. Now, let me tell you, just a little side note about Greenland. They had elections, and they don't want to be part of Denmark anymore. They don't necessarily want to be part of the United States either. They actually want to be their own country, which is very fair. March 5th. U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick told Canadian Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc that Trump had come to realize that the relationship between the U.S. and Canada was governed by a slew of agreements and treaties that were easy to abandon. March 7th. Unconfirmed memorandum and maps leaked on Twitter revealed Trump is allegedly planning to annex the entirety of the Great Lakes in southern Ontario, home to 13,491,332 Canadians. This amounts to 35.25% of Canada's total population and includes its largest city, Toronto. This region accounts for 38% of the Canadian economy, and its loss would make Canada's independence functionally impossible. March 8th. Canada's foreign minister warns European allies that their government considers Canada to be under existential threat. March 9th. Mark Carney, the new Canadian Prime Minister, in his acceptance speech states that Trump is seeking to destroy Canada and its way of life. March 11th. President Trump threatens to permanently shut down the automobile manufacturing business in Canada if Canada does not drop a 250% to 390% tariff on U.S. dairy products, which he doesn't state only kicks in after a certain quantity of tariff-free U.S. dairy enters Canada, a quantity that was originally negotiated and agreed to by Trump during the USMCA in 2018, to which we have actually not reached that threshold. In Trump's own words, the only thing that makes sense is for Canada to become a cherished 51st state. This would make all tariffs and everything else totally disappear. Canadians' taxes will be very substantially reduced. They will be more secure, militarily and otherwise, than ever before. There would no longer be a northern border problem, except that you have a border to the north of you. Just saying. So the border just shifts. It doesn't go away. This is not rocket science, people. So let me see. No problem. And the greatest and most powerful nation in the world will be bigger, better, and stronger than ever. And Canada will be a part of that. The artificial line of separation drawn many years ago, it wasn't a Sharpie, clearly, will finally disappear, and we will have the safest and most beautiful nation anywhere in the world. And your brilliant anthem, O Canada, which is the best national anthem out there, will continue to play, but now representing a great and powerful state within the greatest nation that the world has ever seen. March 11th, 2025, part 2. Peter Navarro, a senior advisor for Trump, is interviewed by MSNBC. When asked about the tariffs, he responds with, "Just tamp it down, please, over there, okay? They're throwing down the hockey gloves. Stop that rhetoric. We're not going to tolerate anything but them stopping killing Americans," insinuating that this situation was caused by Canadians killing Americans. That is about as ripe as Zelensky's the one that invaded Russia. March 11th, part 3. Trump again publicly reuses that Canada, Greenland, and the U.S. should be one country and questions the validity of the Canadian and American border. March 11th, part 4. Canada sells $3.5 billion of its U.S. bonds. March 12th, Canadian Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc announces tariffs of $29.8 billion worth of U.S. goods. This includes tariffs on steel, aluminum, computers, tools, sporting equipment, and cast iron products. March 12th, part 2. A French Barracuda nuclear attack submarine. This is new. A French Barracuda nuclear attack submarine docks in Halifax, Nova Scotia, a major Canadian post on the East Coast. This follows comments made by Macron last week that France will protect its allies under its nuclear umbrella. That was not there earlier when I posted this. He updated it. A French Barracuda nuclear attack submarine is in Canada to protect Canada for the United States. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
That's not even on our news. That's nowhere on our news.
And this is a Canadian posting it.
Yeah.
And let me see.
That's like, yeah.
That's a holy crap moment.
Yeah.
That's a
I'm having conversations with my son. My son is 24, and I'm having conversations with him about conscription. How do you feel with conscription? Because we don't have conscription here.
What does that mean?
That means you're forced to.
There's a draft.
Yeah.
How do you feel about a draft?
So, like, never thought I'd have to have that conversation about, the possibility of that being implemented, again. That's so I'm scared as a mother on two fronts. I'm scared for my daughter. I'm scared, if we actually go the extreme right way, and I'm scared for my son from a military perspective. So everything you read just really just makes me sick to my stomach. And when Trump got in, I think we knew that there was going to be a lot of retribution, for what he feels was wrong. But I don't think any of us really. Well, I mean, we the extent that's going on.
Believe me.
And that we would get, caught up in it. That yeah.
I wish I could bury my head in the sand and wake up 3.5 years from now and just play pickleball and do the events and beg people to spend money and support these small businesses. But that's irresponsible. It's irresponsible. And I also understand that it could easily knock on my door. Like, I'm not joking. Like, what better way to confine a country than to make the one above us and below us hate us so that you won't let us in? What better way to control people than to make it so we can't leave? What better way to make it so that other countries of the world go, we're not going to help you? Kind of like the Palestinians can't go to Egypt. They're good people. There are good people in Palestine, just like there's good people in Canada and there's good people in the United States that didn't sign up for the bullshit they're surrounded by, but they're stuck in a regime that's making it so they cannot get out. And they're forced into this horrible situation. And there's people all over the world that hopefully will be like, it's not all of them. It's not all, it's not all of us. We don't agree. The majority of us don't agree with what we're living under, but there are those that do. And the ones that do are like super mean, horrible people. They actually think humans are vermin. They actually see immigrants as not worthy, as illegals.
It's really interesting that what you're saying, because we have this trade war going on where it's just like, well, if you're going to do this, then we're going to do this, and we haven't even talked about, yeah, like moving to moving here, like leaving the U.S. And I read in the news today that Trump is putting in some order where Canadians, who snowbird to U.S. Any Canadian over who stays in the U.S. over 30 days now needs to register for something. So it's going to affect anywhere between, like, I think it's like 1 to 3 million Canadians who go into. So it's starting where now it's not even like the trade. Now it's going to be like, we're talking about, like the ease of us being able to go into each other's countries. And of course, Canada is going to retaliate and be like, if you're not going to let us go down, these people who have spent money in your country, who live there, who bought property there, who invested in your country, then we're going to do it here. So this is, it's just really,
it's really awful, awful, awful. And I know that Canadians, one thing that I'm super proud of your people is that, because I mean, there's something to be said for a country that is made up of mostly the same, like Germany, Germans, Denmark, Danish. Yes, there are immigrants, but we're a country made up of immigrants. So we really have a melting pot of everything, even no matter how white they want this country to be. We were built on immigrants. So we're Americans, but we're like Italian Americans, Jewish Americans, Polish Americans, and you run the gamut. Muslims, Asians, we're everything here. And then everyone had kids with one another. So those kids are like a whole bunch of things.
mm-hmm.
You're Canadian. And yes, you have some Muslims and you have some other people there, but the majority of you are Canadians. And what I find with countries that a majority are like a whole unit is that it seems to be easier to come together as Canadians and say, I'm not buying that bourbon from Kentucky. And we will do without because we're proud. We don't need to go to Disney. We can sell our houses in Florida and Arizona, which is tanked the markets in both those states. Because enough Canadians own property in those two states that the markets have actually gone down for the people who actually are American and own homes there. We will sell our properties. We will sell our annual passes for Disney. We won't get them. We will get rid of our Disney Vacation Club. We will not spend money on a US product. And the thing is, it's a big world. And if you want whiskey, I'm sure somewhere else in the world, somebody else sells whiskey besides making it yourself. I'm sure France has amazing wines that you can import and not get them from across the border. And I don't think people even understand just how like I look at Canada and I go, I feel like we're like one country because we work so well together. But I can't send you money, Kelly. I can't send you money. I can't Venmo you. I can't PayPal you. I can't send you money, which makes you realize it's another country. But it doesn't feel like we're two different countries because we just kind of, people cross that border every day to work both ways. I mean, electricity is coming across that border to 3 states over here.
Yeah.
The threat of turning it off was already a tariff. The threat of turning it off to those 3 areas that border Canada. I mean, who wants that to stop? But like I said, I can't send you money. I mean, you would think it'd be super easy, but I can't. And that's where I always I get reminded that that's right there, a whole different country.
Yeah. And I think like I'm really glad to see the different provinces step up, regardless of which political party is leading it. The provinces are, for the most part, aligned in how in doing retaliatory measures to this. And breaking down, like I don't really understand, like there's apparently a lot of barriers for us to trade amongst provinces, which like seems really crazy to me, but they're working on removing them so that we can trade more within our country. I think like the thing for me that's going to be the most heartbreaking is because of the tariffs on oil, is that they're now talking about starting up a pipeline across Canada, even at the expense of Indigenous lands, which obviously I'm 100% for and do not want to have happen because we are on Indigenous land. And having them who like they've already, you know, given up so much land, and now that this is happening, that that this conversation is being had. So it's definitely got its downfalls. Obviously, I'm all for buying Canadian, supporting Canadian, and but yeah. So yeah, and the thing is as a Canadian, I mean, I there's so I mean, I'm realizing actually like how much stuff is actually food wise like how is in Canada, but like I definitely love like my like brands that are in the
Right,
US.
like Follow Your Heart. I mean, Follow Your Heart isn't called Follow Your Heart up there, but it's Follow Your Heart brand.
Beyond is the hardest one. It's really the hardest one to have boycotted because as a chef, it's what I use. It's what has helped me be able to have conversations with non-vegans about vegan food because they'll eat what I make and be like, this tastes just like meat, and then I can say what it is. And so that one's really difficult. Even though they apparently use Canadian peas for their pea protein. So and then you get into that nuance, right? It's like it's like they're using Canadian products, it's made in Canada, but it's going to the US. And I mean, at the end, it's all at what extent you want to do it. And I just think making some shift is good, and how much you want to shift.
Maybe that shift is to still support the vegan companies
Yeah.
that aren't off the ledge. Because there's vegan, we know that there's vegan companies that or people that do business that have done the woo ledge, So maybe it makes sense for you to support because what's a even more important factor and bringing the vegan piece into this is those companies survive because their demise leads to the demise of the planet. I mean, they both can lead to the demise of the planet in different ways, like war. And, but I like the planet to survive and I like us all to survive on it. And we need the vegan options to make sure that the planet survives and the people who inhabit it are healthy and the animals survive. So you have different values and ethics that play into this. So maybe for the vegan Canadians, and this is where you can start that movement, you say, let's still support the American vegan companies
Yeah.
so that, you know, because they're on our side, and you can write to them and say, where do you stand?
Mm,
Right? And
yeah.
you see what their response is, and from there you can make the decision of, all right, you're who, we will still support you. I'm pretty sure Tofurky will be on that side. I feel like Beyond might be there, but especially the smaller ones,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
smaller vegan businesses that that may fold without international help.
Yeah.
Because you're international, but you're like all on the same continent. So if they're in California or they're in Washington State, it's really easy to get stuff to Canada. Well, at least you know now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I've been leaning. Yeah, especially because I do want to start making more. I have an idea of like a menu that I want to do, focusing on Canadian traditional Canadian dishes and veganizing them.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously everyone is supporting all small Canadian businesses now. And yeah, and I just like think about, can I do this without some of these products? So
Right.
that's where I'm landing, where it's like, yeah, if I think that, these companies don't support what's going on and they're vegan and they don't, I will consider an exception for a few of them. But still, like I, explore. So like we actually, there's some Canadian companies that I've just never tried because I just have stuck with some of the, like,
Right.
with Beyond, and then like, so it's like, maybe it is just as good. I don't know. Right.
I
And
mean,
I'm sure there's going to be like new companies that come out of this, especially as we get some relief from the government, in response to this, to encourage Canadian businesses. So, yeah, I mean, I know it's not as black and white, and I have, there's just some things where it's just really really hard to the point, and and there's so many variables. There's finances, there's just so many variables in play. I'm doing my absolute best to not buy American anywhere else but America when I can, but also I don't want to beat myself up if I'm not perfect.
and that's perfectly fair. I think that makes total sense. I mean, I think we all have to be realistic with what we can and cannot do, and who we support and who we don't support. And I believe in balance. I know over here they've got all the boycotts and stuff, but financially, sometimes you just can't afford to spend twice the amount on something. What I mean, especially when we have such uncertain times. Like I went to the supermarket a couple weeks ago and I was like, hey, maybe I'll get an avocado. An avocado was almost $4.
Yeah.
The avocado was almost $4. I don't do a lot of food shopping. Honestly, I go to like Costco and BJ's and I buy like big bags of spinach and kale and big bags of mango, and those prices haven't changed. So when I went to get one avocado, I went, I'm not getting an avocado because I was like, this is I I I've never had sticker shock. I've never I I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
So I don't know what every bill. I can tell you every single one of my bills has gone up. Everything. And I'm not alone. My mortgage has gone up because my homeowner's insurance, I don't live in a disaster zone. I don't live in flooding. I don't really live where there's weather. I am in like the middle of the state of North Carolina pretty much. I don't live by mountains. And my homeowner's insurance is going to go up close to $1,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having a hard time getting it because they want me to trim a tree. And I'm just like, what? Why can't you just make it like if the tree comes down to my roof, you just don't cover?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like when I get to the tree being trimmed, then you can add it back into the policy because the cost of trimming the tree on and that's to like that's for the homeowner's insurance to only go up like 300 to 500 a year. Without trimming the tree, I am looking at $1,000. And that, I mean, and to give you full numbers, that's like homeowner's insurance was like $1,600 a year. So I'm looking at $2,600 a year, $2,800 a year. So more than $1,000. I don't know how people who live on the coast are getting homeowners insurance.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what they want me to pay without claims. Because, so, if you file a claim, you'll never get insurance because it's only there for like, when disaster hits, not when like trees come down. Like I would actually, unless it damaged my house, I would really like use my I'm like, the trees have come down. I didn't use my homeowner's insurance. So
Yeah. Yeah. I have found my eating habits have definitely changed since I've been mindful about where I'm buying my products from. I not that I eat like a lot of chips, but I'm pretty stressed out with a lot going on. So I've been having some cravings, and I knew what. So just being in the groups, I knew what to look for, and the bag of chips that was Canadian made was like $5. So I was like, "This is so I'm gonna treat myself today," and then that's it.
right, and I'm gonna make that bag last because
Yeah, yeah.
$5 for 8 ounces.
Yeah, yeah, I
Or
don't even know. Like
I
it
don't right.
was smaller
You
than
don't use
that.
ounces,
Yeah.
so
So I was like, okay,
grams, maybe
yeah.
grams.
Some of the veggie meats, like I mean, they're all in the so like I've been eating way less veggie meats. I mean, when Beyond, so the thing I love Beyond, I really do love Beyond, and whenever it's on sale here, I stock up. So like in any given day, I have a giant freezer in my basement. I have like probably 20 packs of the meat, right? Because I just buy them out. So like I haven't had to get all that. But and I also just save it for my business if I get an order. But yeah, I've been eating different, just which is a good thing. Since this. And yeah, like I probably like in my last 4-5 shopping excursions, like it's definitely been like 98% being able to buy not just Canada, just like non-American.
Non-American.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hear you. I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you if I had the ability, if I went shopping, that I could only buy American.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know if that's possible because our fruits and veggies come from where they are. I mean, you have to buy what's local at the time in the growing season.
Mm-hmm.
You probably don't want to buy it from a supermarket. You probably want to go to the farms or the farmer's market and buy stuff there. And even then, you have to check because they may have stuff that they just bought at the farm at another market and they're selling at a higher price that they didn't actually grow. Because they also at our state farmers market, they have stuff that's not grown here. They sell when it's off season. I mean, I mean, we have tons of stuff here from China, like tons of stuff here from China. I mean, our cars. I mean, I'm sorry, but the American-made cars have never lived up to expectations as well as the foreign-made ones.
Mm.
However, I do have a conflict because Toyota, which is what I have, Toyota is remove their DEI policy. So now I have a conflict.
Yeah.
right? So you're not going to treat your employees well, but I need to take my car to get service there. So, I mean, now do I buy another one? Well, I there's too many things. So we all, I mean, just to bring it back and to probably close this out, I feel like what's important is that it's just like losing weight or stopping smoking, right? Stopping drinking. You can't, especially if you want to stop all of those at the same time. A doctor will tell you to focus on the one that has the most dramatic impact on your health first and do that, because if you focus on all three, you'll get none done because it's too overwhelming. So I think everyone just has to find what their focus is, on what their activism is, and focus on that and remain aware. Because otherwise, I mean, I feel it. I don't get, I'm not a high anxiety person. I feel the anxiety. I can't do it all. So what is it that I'm going to do? Maybe I do pieces of everything. I don't know. I advertise on Facebook, but I'm giving money to the devil who's streaming this. Right? So,
Yeah.
but I need people to reach to bring them to the festivals so that these small businesses can have success and people can learn about veganism. So I have to balance the reach with what my activism is.
Yeah.
And I'm giving money to someone who doesn't need it, but I'm reaching so many people because of it. If I didn't do that, then all these small businesses that are relying on me to get people in the door, how do I reach those people? Because I can't put it in the newspaper. It doesn't work. It has to be online somewhere. Because if I'm not giving it to Facebook, and I still need to do that on Instagram, I need to give it to Google.
Yeah.
So somebody with a lot of money is going to get money.
Yeah.
So I can reach all of you so you can spend money on like all these small businesses. So I don't like, it's unrealistic to say zero. It's unrealistic. And I think that's really hard because I think a lot of people see the memes and see the posts. Don't do this. Don't buy from Amazon. Don't buy gas today. Don't do this. Blah blah blah. And I needed gas that day. I mean, I don't leave the house a lot, so I needed gas the day that I was supposed to buy gas, but I bought it from Sheetz. So, but you know who owns that Sheetz? One of us. It's a corporate name, but a human just like you and me, an everyday person, owns that gas station, who makes money and then gives some of that to the corporation that's name is on the sign. It's not Sheetz running around. The corporation isn't the one getting all the money. The human being who bought into doing that, the family that owns that gas station, is the one making most of the money. So when you boycott the gas station, you boycott, there's products in Target that are made by small businesses. So even small businesses in China, even people in Africa, even people who have stuff that they need to survive. And it's impossible to figure all that out. But you can extrapolate this to where you're standing still and you do nothing.
Well, I think that exactly, like, I mean, and I think us being vegans has, like, I think a lot of us, not all of us, because we know there's some really
Yes.
cool vegans out there. Veganism normally opens your eyes to this sort of awareness of like how animals are used and abused and whatnot, and this has just opened my eyes as to how I spend my money, and then I make these decisions like, yes, you know what, I really need something, and I need to get it on Amazon, like but if I can hold off or find it local, I will, or it's just, yeah, and so just that being mindful, right, of how I spend my money, whether I need it, and whatnot. So that's, really, you know, yeah, the good thing that has come out of it, and because that's really, I mean, what else, I mean, aside from protesting, like there's really nothing else Canadians can do, and the reality is if we got attacked, I mean, like we're a tenth the size of you, right? We're
Right.
outnumbered, right? So it's just feeling some way of feeling empowered, knowing
Well,
that reality that.
you can we can live by the example of Ukraine,
Mhm.
and they're still fighting.
Yeah, yeah.
A big superpower coming in and crossing their borders. And it sounds like you've got France in your pocket.
But then, at the end of the day, though, Helene, it's like I'm doing this, and I'm, like I said, like I'm much more like patriotic than I ever have been, but it also, I just feel like it's a daze and mixed with sadness that I even have. You know what I mean? Like,
We even have to have this conversation.
you're a good friend of mine. I love all the stew crew. And I hate that I'm not supporting you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like this, right? Like, or
Right.
that's what it feels like, right? Yeah, so it's just, it, as we've been saying, it's just really, really sad that we're even having this in the first place. I would much rather have been, the five of us, having a conversation about veganism and, something else than, than
Some
this.
weird ass woo people or something, because
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on with vaccinations, and we have a measles outbreak in this country.
yeah,
Let's not forget about the measles outbreak to the
it's
person who's
here.
not immune to measles.
It's here too.
So
Yep.
it just like
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
it's preventable. It's like preventable with a vaccine that's been around all our lives. And I don't know. I'm pretty darn healthy. I'm fully COVID vaccinated. I'm flu vaccinated at this point. I was vaccinated as a child, and I just had my blood work done. Yo, I'm not on any medications. I'm 55 years old. What? And that doesn't mean just because I'm vegan that's the case. Because vegans can be like Chef AJ, have lung cancer,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
veganism isn't the end all to health, as some woo vegans would think, or like fucking Kennedy, take some cod oil for the measles, and
I just finished watching Apple Cider Vinegar, so I'm having
and I
all
was
sorts
like,
of conflicting
right,
emotions about about this whole topic.
I mean, apple cider vinegar is healthy for you. However, it's put it into your daily life, but don't expect it to prevent measles, a highly contagious disease that was eradicated and is back. And I just
Have you watched a series?
mm-mm.
Oh, you haven't watched the series Apple Cider Vinegar?
No,
Oh, it's a Netflix series, and it's,
I
oh yeah,
I don't have Netflix.
oh yeah.
It's the one I don't pay
So
for.
it's about this. It's based off a story of this woman who lied about having brain cancer and said she cured it with
Apple
food.
cider vinegar.
Yeah, no food, just whole food,
Food.
whole food.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's another side story of this woman who had cancer. I can't remember what it was called. They wanted to cut her arm off, and she went like full on juiced coffee enemas, like vegan and like raw and coffee. So it was just like even more the extreme, and she eventually died. And like she's not actually not a real character. She's sort of a mix of others, but it just goes into the bigger discussion of how food does play a role in your health, but is, like you said, is it the cure all?
It's not the end all. Because when I read an article about it was about cancers and people eating and that their diets helped cure or put them in remission because you're in remission with their cancers. And the one piece that was left out of all of these stories was the surgeons, because they all had surgery. And after their surgery, not chemo, but after their surgery to remove the cancer, they went to that extreme of diet, of raw, or whatever it is they went to, and they healed. And they all of them pretty much were at a cancer 0, cancer 1 level. So they didn't need the chemo, they didn't need the radiation. But the surgeon removed the cancer, but they don't speak about the surgeon removing cancer. They just speak about the fact that they cured their cancer with their diet. No, you had surgery that helped to cure your cancer. And then what you did afterwards was treat your body like a temple, which is what you should do when you have cancer in it, so that you can mitigate the chances of it getting worse or coming back. Because sugar, meats, processed foods, all can lead to cancer. And your genetics. Yeah, so
This definitely
yeah.
needs to be our next topic. I think our stew topic.
I think that would be a great stew topic if we can
Yeah.
get us all together and do the
Yeah.
stew topic.
Yeah.
So I chose not to go to pickleball tonight to do this, just so you know.
Oh,
Welcome. And I was like, oh, I could still go, but it ends at 9. So I can't I can't do it. But that's okay. This was much better. And I'll play tomorrow.
I just want to say, yeah, that it's it has nothing to do with the American people. You know, any response that's coming from Canadians, right? You know, this is all aimed directly at one person and one person only. Yep. You know, and we're just doing this, like I said, because it's really the only one of the few things that we feel that we can do, right? You know, and so. Yep.
You have to hit people in their pocketbooks because that's where it hurts. Yeah. And if people here get hit in their pocketbooks, they're going to look to the person that's causing that to happen. Now, if they blame Canadians, that would be the wrong place to blame. They will, because that's who they're going to be told to blame. Yeah. However, if you have any critical thinking and brain cells left, you will realize that there's one person who's causing all of this, and you voted him in. So I posted today, "Your leader," to somebody, and the comment back was, "He's your leader too?" No, he's not. He's not. He's not a leader. Let's just put that out there right now. A leader is a leader for all and not just for some. And his lead is for people who have money and want to make more money. That is not for all. So he does not represent this country in the way that this country needs to be represented. And the people he has surrounding him all kind of lean into the same thought process and thought patterns. And that's something that I think people need to understand as things get worse over here, that there's more people like me than there aren't. So, yeah. And we also have to, and I'm going to bring it back to Palestine, still have to focus on the fact that as much as you want to believe all the Palestinians are Hamas, they are not. Because you just have to look inward at what's going on here to go, I don't believe in what's going on. I don't believe we should be doing the things that we're doing. And when the hurt comes, it's going to hurt all of us, just like the hurt is hurting all of the people in Palestine. And neither is okay, because we're all not on board with what's going on. We are currently stuck with a regime that there's not much we can do outside of literally pitchforks and marching, and that's being taken away.
Yes.
As we're speaking, that is being taken away in this country as well.
Yeah.
So, and the courts can only act so fast. And if you get gobbled up and put into a system, it's very hard to get you out of that system, because when there's so many of them in it and you can't find the people where they are to help them, what do you do? I mean, there are people who live alone that if they don't come home, and who knows that they didn't come home? Who knows? Yeah. How long does it take? Facebook page is dark. They haven't commented. They're not replying to texts. Should someone go over there? How long does it take before you realize The car's in the driveway, but the person's not there, or the car's not even there, and then you don't even know where they are. I mean, people with families, it's a little easier. You know when they don't come home. But a person who lives alone and is outspoken, or a different skin color,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
different nationality or religion.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned, how, and I've had a few friends, ask us very seriously about what it's like how to move to Canada. And, and I've told everyone, like, when it was, you know, obvious that, Trump has a very good chance of getting in again. Don't, well, I don't know why you would want to come to Canada. We have our, um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how Canada continues to respond, not just in our actions, but in our political decisions in response to this. And our new prime minister uh, has a tough job ahead of him, and I think it's up to him to bring those people that the Liberals lost back, or to push it back in the other direction. And that would be really sad to see given the gains that we've made. So, yeah. So I don't think we're out of the woods yet in terms of us, not getting someone in that's going to be equally damaging for Canada as what's going on in the U.S.
Well, let's hope you are smart and you learn lessons without having to go through them yourself. Because I don't know what happens if you have a Trump like person in Canada. We may become one country, or maybe we won't. Maybe there'll be a war. Because if you have someone as stubborn and as obnoxious and bullying in your government and they butt heads, what happens?
Mm-hmm.
What happens? I don't know. And
Yep.
sadly, we are going to have to live through this to find out. And I think, the idea of coming to Canada, like in Handmaid's Tale, it's like, what, I don't know how we don't do that. How do we, because at least we speak the same language. If we go to Mexico, we don't speak the same language.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Canada is safer.
Yeah, and I do, and I think that even if the Conservatives get back in, like I said, it will be a minority government, so they won't have full control. So they won't be able to pass the shit that they want to pass, the anti-LGBTQ, anti-trans, DEI, Puliev says like the same bullshit that Trump says. Like literally, he's stolen his playbook, right?
Right.
So so I don't think, yeah, even if it gets bad, it won't be as bad. And I don't think that it would, like, definitely would not be like you said, Trump trying to, get it so that you just don't vote at all, right? Like, it definitely would not be happening here. So we definitely, in that respect, would have it like better, quote unquote.
Right. You'll still have a democracy.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And that's, not to be taken for granted.
Definitely.
Don't take it for granted, Canadians. And do what you can from your side to make sure that people understand that actually the majority of the people here are not pro what's going on. So
Mm-hmm.
remember, we've had more people not vote than vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting because like our vote for our premier, our voting turnout was the lowest it's ever been. And so they, use the same messaging like, oh, we won by a landslide. That's like, you won by landslide of a very small percentage of people who actually voted, right? It's not
Right.
like you had 90% turnout and it was a landslide, right? Like
Right.
it was like 30% vote, came out to vote. Like it was just so low, right? So it's not representative, what necessarily Ontarians like are thinking. Well, they might not have voted because I thought, everything's okay. If he's probably going to get in, I don't really care, or they're just like, screw everything and didn't, so what, regardless. But so I just hope that we don't, when it gets to the serious vote, not that, what affects, I'm in Ontario, what affects me is serious, but like, the big one.
Right, right. The country one, the
Yeah,
countrywide vote that impacts, it's like we have a Democratic governor in North Carolina, thank goodness.
yeah,
And the supermajority is no longer. So as long as everybody sticks with their party lines and everybody's there, the weird stuff and the bad stuff won't pass.
yes, yeah,
Because when they have the supermajority here, they decide to do some really horrible things. I
yes,
mean, North Carolina is just a heartbeat away from being Florida.
yeah,
And worse, probably worse than Florida. If they had their comeuppings, they would be worse than Florida.
yeah,
Except that we still have enough Democratic people here to make it purple, you know. So, but it's all how you vote, and if you don't vote, you get to live with this. Woo!
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I hope Canadians step up. I hope Canadians do make the right decision and put the right person in place who can navigate us through this and don't put the person in place who you know uh don't be fooled by what he has said about standing up to Trump, because all you have to do is just listen to him.
Right,
Don't listen to him saying Canada's not for sale. Listen to everything else that he said, where he's literally taken word by word everything that Trump has said and spewed the same shit here. Right? Because he's just saying that now because he's seen these numbers, he's seen his losses, and he knows he's got to say this rhetoric to try to win these voters back. Right? So just don't be fooled. Just look at his history. Not what he's saying now. Look at his history.
right. They lie. They
Exactly.
lie to get what they want, and then when they're in, they do what they intended to do. I
Exactly.
mean, listen to what I mean. A snake is a snake, right? Listen to what they actually say. Would you want to date them?
Mhm.
Would you be in a relationship with these people? Would you be surprised if they told you I'm going to beat you, and then when they beat you, do you like go, but I didn't think you would because you were nice, or like you said you bought me roses, but now you punched me in the face, but you bought me roses. That's not how it works. I told you I was going to beat you.
Yeah.
Believe it. Believe it. Believe people for who and what they are and where they're at, because
Exactly.
that's who they are.
Exactly.
And people here are like, I didn't think he was gonna like. I didn't think he was really gonna go through with it. I thought he was gonna bring prices of eggs down. I thought we'd have a better economy on day one because that's what he said. Not a worse one 2 months in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like dummies. I have to deal with all of you dummies because I knew better. I understand. Just to go on the record, I of course I voted for Kamala, but I also understand human nature and I understand Americans, and it's especially for Canadians too. You want to vote for the person you chose to vote for. We have primaries for a reason, so that we pick who will be going into that spot for who we're going to vote for, whatever that election is. And when you take that choice away, it pisses people off.
Yeah.
And as much as that she definitely was the better choice for what we have, not necessarily the better choice for the country as a whole, but the better choice for our democracy. I still believe that Biden should have stepped down and we should have been given, somebody should have gone against him to make sure that we had a choice of picking somebody else instead of an old, feeble man. It's unrealistic. So, I mean, I get that. And as liberal, as democratic as I am, I just want people to understand that I understand that we did not have the best scenario, best case for our election. But the choice, the other side, was so polarizing and damaging that there was no choice. But I like I started this talk, I gave our fellow citizens more credit than I really thought they would not do this again. I really, really did. I didn't think they would do this again. And after interacting with some that are okay with everything that's going on, it's really upsetting to hear people be okay. It's going to be hard times for a little bit. But what makes you think it's going to come out for our benefit on the other side and not their benefit?
Yeah.
Come on. Don't be foolish. But that's what they said they're going to do. No, what they said they're going to do is going to line their pockets. That's what they said they're going to do. And it's at the risk and at our lack of benefits. It's really sad. It's just really sad that we're even here. And it's sad that we've had to have this conversation, but it's actually wonderful to have this conversation with you because I love you very much. And I'm glad that you're there. And I'm glad that, maybe it's you coming down here and we go to Mexico. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Just know what you want to put in the car and then let's go.
If you decide to come here, you have a room in my house.
Thank you. With 3 dogs and a cat, just so you know.
Lily might not like that. But
yeah, well, I can't leave behind. So it's not how I roll.
No.
Yeah,
no. Seriously, like I am a safe person.
Yep.
Everyone knows that, right? So,
yep.
Yeah.
It goes
regardless of what things go. I am always a safe person.
Yes, safe place. Yes, we're both safe place.
Yeah,
places. Yeah, people.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Okay, well, for anyone that has watched us, listened to us, and people have come in and out over the course of almost the past 2 hours. I don't know who will watch this all the way to the end. If they do, because it is, you can watch it on a faster speed, if you so choose. But it's been a good talk, and it's a talk that we could probably do for the next 2 hours. And it's a talk that we could probably do every week because shit changes on the daily.
Yeah.
So every day you wake up and it's oh, and I just have to shut it down. But then I listen and I have to shut it down because it's just only so much you can consume. But at the same time, I want to be knowledgeable enough so when those Trumpsters and MAGA people come at me, I can be no, you have that wrong. No, that's wrong. That's you've fallen for the BS that's being spewed at you, and that's those stupid memes and the lies. You're just soaking and just absorbing them into your brain, and you're don't you fact check?
Yeah.
If something seems weird, I go look it up. That's what I did today about that meme. I went and looked it up, and it wasn't easy to find the information because all the information is about what's currently happening as opposed to what it was. So I had to go search for it, but I found it, and I posted 2 links to say and of course, one of the links, there's a piece in there that says it was worse under Biden, and it's it was this, it's like debating. So you're but it was worse under the Biden when it was for this, blah, blah, blah. But the rest of the article is completely the opposite of that one line. And I was okay, that's good. So you pick and choose that one little piece, but the rest of it is saying no, things got better, or he did more, or like, you know, but you pick only what fits your narrative. And I posted a link that was truthful for all accounts, because I think that's important, and not skewed in one direction or the other, because that doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah.
I could easily post propaganda on the other side. So, and that doesn't get it. That doesn't do any good for anybody. Like I said, critical thinking and being aware and not digging your head in the sand and making sure that we don't become Nazi Germany, and we don't like make Canada part of the United States.
Yeah. Well,
These are priorities.
yeah. Well, we're definitely in a defining moment, you know, whether it be that the government does end up calling an election and then we have to vote for yet a new prime minister, or Carney remains prime minister, or they hold off until October, you know, in which case he's, you know, he has everything to gain and everything to lose. He's, you know, it's just such a critical time right now on how he responds to this, and whether he can maintain those people that come over, right? You know, so yeah, so absolutely, and just yeah, we could absolutely talk about this every week, because you got, you know, the premiers I think are coming to the U.S. tomorrow to talk with what's his name, Lipnick or whatever his name is.
Whatever I said,
Yeah,
referred to him earlier.
about the terror. So you know what I mean? It's like it every day is, you know, you like someone in the way they stood up, and then you hate them because they back down. It's just yeah.
It's you know, it's men pounding their chests.
Yeah.
And you know what we don't need? We don't need fucking men pounding their chests.
Yeah, and I mean, I was very disappointed that the Liberals, like, there was a very strong female contender, and she should have got in. She was very strong against Trump. That's the one that Freeland, that's the one that Trump talked about, you know, because she had the courage to stand up to him and his nonsense, right? You know, so of course he tore her down along with Trudeau. But they went the safe route and voted for you know,
He's a
older white man.
businessman. Yeah, he's a businessman,
Yeah,
and with no political background at all.
exactly.
I don't. I mean, I don't know how that's going to bode. I
Yeah.
no idea, but uh, I do like the fact that, you know, the Canadians are standing up and speaking out. Your leaders are standing up and speaking out, and let them keep doing that.
Definitely.
Because a bully only responds to what? Someone standing up to them.
Yeah.
They do not respect somebody who cows down. Ever, 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 ever. And you can kill them with kindness too. I'm a fan of killing people with kindness. The mean people, dicky people, you just like be nice. It's really hard to be mean to someone who's nice to you. It's really, 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 really hard. If you take anything away from this, forget about the politics, kill people with kindness. It is wonderful to see them start to break down and be friendly, because why would you be mean to someone who's kind to you as much as you want to? Duh, you know, like, oh, I hate her because she's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just it works. It's really a great strategy. Great little manipulation strategy, which I'm a fan of. All right, Kelly, my dear. Everybody who's watched, thank you for joining.
Yes. Thank you.
Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, because people have come in and out through this whole 2 hours of time that we've been talking. And you know, we'll do it again soon. And let's pay attention to that nuclear nuclear.
I'm gonna look. Yeah, I'm gonna look for that on the new. I mean, because
Yeah,
I knew that Macron has said positive things, but that I have not seen. So I'm gonna look for that after. So.
Send me what you find, because that's the closest thing to World War III that no one here ever thought would be on our borders. You know, just a side note, because before I end, when I was in Germany, I rode a bicycle. Actually, I was in Denmark. And I was in Denmark and we rode bicycles into Germany, got chocolate, and then rode the bicycles back to Denmark. And it was so interesting to me that I didn't just cross I didn't just cross a state border. I crossed a country border. Like these people are Danish and those people are German, and I just rode across and then rode back. And it made me think like these people are all German. We're not, I mean, as much as we're all American, we're not all German, which is what we referred to earlier. You're all Canadian because the majority of you are Canadian. The people here consider themselves American, but we are not. We don't all look alike. We don't all have similar features. We don't all speak the same language. But that's what we were made up as. That's who we are. That's what makes America what it is. That's what makes people want to come here because we should have open borders enough to allow people to come within our rules and regulations that you can come and have a better life in this country. There's just, we will never understand a history of books of people who are all German, all Polish, all Danish. You know, we will never understand that. We haven't been around long enough to even understand that. But it's just it was just amazing to me because I wasn't just like on a bicycle getting chocolate. I was in a whole other country. You know, I can go to South Carolina. Yes, they have different laws and rules and stuff, but it's still here. They still
Yeah.
abide by the same federal rules. They just have different stuff in South Carolina that they have. You know, they're, you know, truly Southern. I go to Virginia and the same thing. It's a whole other country. And I got chocolate. I don't know. It may not make sense to people, but I hope it does because it's just remarkable. People go to Canada every day to work and vice versa. It's a whole other country. Like I said, I can't pay you. I can't give you, I can't Venmo you money.
No,
It's a
I
whole
know.
other country. So,
Yeah.
and we don't really think about it because, you know, you're just there. Like Mexico. Mexico is a little different because they look different, they talk different. They have a beautiful country. They're to the south of us. But Canadians to me are just like, and I hope feels the same way, that we're like the same people. But you're a whole other country.
Yeah.
A whole other proud country that sadly has relied on this country, possibly to your detriment, just like Europe has relied on us, possibly to their detriment. It truly brings to light, and I'll bring it back to the abusive, someone being abusive. It truly brings to light that you can't rely on others. You have to be able to do it all yourself. Which women have to go through that every day, right? Can't rely on another human being in order to survive. We have to make sure that we can do it and we can survive on our own. We kind of just have that ingrained in us because of our experiences with men in this world and other humans, not just all men. And countries are learning that right now. That if you want a Starlink system, you need to develop it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That because at any given point, someone can go off the deep end and make everything chaos. But if you have it yourself, you don't have to rely on others. But we live in one world and on one planet, and the nice thing about the planet is that we could rely on one another, and we could benefit from one another, and we could live harmoniously. But we choose not to because of greed and power.
Yeah.
And money is just never worth it. As much as you all might want to have more of it, it's not a bad thing, but it's never worth making people not human.
Yeah.
Ever. All right. That's my soapbox. Clearly a lot to say. All right. So again, thank you for listening. and being part of this. And we did. We did 2 hours or 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds away from 2 hours. Good job. All right, Kelly, you take care, keep in
Yeah,
touch,
of course.
and I'll keep posting and I'll keep fighting. And I'm going to go take a gun class to make sure I know how to use my guns.
Yes, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll get the crew together
Yep.
very soon.
Oh, definitely. Definitely, definitely. All right. Have a great night, everyone. Be kind,
Bye,
be
everyone.
safe, and we'll see you soon. Let me see. Let me end it. Bye.
Bye.